Hello everyone, this is Blender Guppy. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can bake the details that you create with the Random Flow add-on. So in this video, we're going to try with asymmetric details, and in the future videos, we're going to create to try with the symmetry and create seamless pattern. So this time, we're just going to create asymmetric detail. And we're going to use this rectangular plane as a template with this kind of topology, and use trail up objects with 80%, 80% to 80% and 60%. So this means that it will use 80% of the selected faces and the rest will be deleted. So I'm just trying to layer details and using trail up objects. So this is what the baker is going to see later. Okay, and let's just get rid of the overlaps. Okay, so the if you bake this, the baker, the baking will not actually see this detail. Instead, it will see this, and the normal that you're trying to capture will not be captured because of the they're all pointing straight towards the z-axis, and there's no detail in these edges to hint that they're actually there. So if we, for example, increase the inset thickness, this is going to be in the next update, the new property. Now we can start to see that they're actually there. And we can also make it more obvious by adding the bevel modifier. So segment 1, so selecting all of that, and segment 1, and adjust the width. Harden normals. Now you can start to see, without the aid of the cavity and outline, we can start to see the details. So without the cavity and without the outline, this is the what the baker is going to see. And now that we have adjusted the inset thickness and also added a bevel modifier, now we can see the detail. Okay, selecting our source mesh again. Let's create some pipes, random tubes, margins, and offset, we have our depth, and also our bevel. If you want a constant bevel or uniform bevel value, just copy the same value in the min and max property. Okay, just like that. Control C and Control V. Okay, and then so you can see we have a new property, align and angle, and we also have min max and the length. So this gets rid of pipes that have a minimum segment length of 2 or 3. So any value that you set here. Let's increase the subdivision and the amount. So if I use segment of 1, you can see that we have really curly tubes. If we increase this, it'll straighten up the pipes. So this is really useful for really high subdivisions. Let's get rid of 3. Let's get rid of 3 segments and increase the amount. Okay, like that. And let's fiddle with the offset. Okay, let's create another layer of tubes. This time we're going to use longest. Okay, and the margin, there we go. And selecting the pipes again, the source mesh again. Let's use random panels. There we go. And select the pipes. And let's bring in a flat couplings. Let's use flange number 2. And instead of actually caps offset, let's offset the caps. And instead of using even count, so this is also going to be in the next update. You can see that the spacing is much simpler. Selecting the other pipes that has no, this one, and just select the custom flange that you're going to use, custom coupling or flange that you're going to use. Okay. Now we have that, and we're going to now actually select the flanges or the couplings or the pipes, and then apply. So they became, so instead of being a curve, now they become a mesh object. And selecting the couplings and flanges, Shift G, same type, which is a mesh and auto smooth, and give this a bevel also. Don't worry about the minor distortions. Okay, Now we can start to bake this. We're going to select the source mesh that we used, Shift D, and bring it higher than the rest of the objects we're going to bake. And open a window for shading, and then a window for the UVs, or for the materials, the shader or the materials, and then unwrap, just like that, and create a new material and create a new image. Score this normal and 2048 by 2048. Okay. Okay. And then click on this and drag it here. And while we are baking, we're going to have this highlighted. The image highlighted. The image node needs to be highlighted, not the other nodes. This has to be highlighted. Okay. And we need to be in cycles because Eve, I think, doesn't have a baker. And go to the bake section and let's use normal. Instead of tangent, we're going to use object because this is an inanimate object and we're supposed to use object, I think, or tangent. So I'm not really familiar with that. So correct me if I'm wrong, but tangent maybe or object. So let's just use tangent. And then selected to active. So that means that the selected objects will be baked to the active object. Okay. And the rest will be untouched. We have the margin here. So Shift G, T. And this, depending on your theme, you can see that this is our active object, and you can also see it in the outliner. This is our active object, just in case that other objects are become your active object. Just select the object you want active. There we go. Okay, so selecting a mesh, you can select it using this back select, and then select the object you want to, pressing shift, and then selecting the object you want active. Okay. Or if these are the only mesh you have in the scene, pick one, Shift G, and press T for the type, and Shift select on the object you want active. Okay. So selected to active. Now we're going to the sampling, and I'm going to just use 32. Okay, just for the speed to make it faster. So of course, higher sampling will be more accurate. Okay, let's try and bake this. Bake. Okay, bake. And let's wait. So this is the progress bar right here. So we're using 2048 by 2048, so it's going to take longer. And it's okay. So there we go. That's the normals. So the objects underneath, you can see that it's not really seeing most of the detail. Okay, let's repeat that. But max extrusion, inflate texture. Oh, that's reducing page, I think. Oh no, let's use object instead and bake. So just remember that if there's no inset depth, if everything is facing towards the say uh, axis or towards your bake object with no apparent detail on the edges to separate them from the rest of the um, surrounding objects or surrounding face islands, then the baker is not going to see that, just like this one here. So this is what it sees without the cavity and the outline. So that's how you test it. Okay. Okay, and let's create another um this call this one AO. Okay, and make sure it is highlighted and choose ambient occlusion, selecting the objects and selecting the active object we wanted to bake to. And then I'm going to use, yeah, 32. I think this will be slower, but this will be very noisy. But of course, the higher the sampling, the less noisier the AO bake will be. But for the sake of speed uh, on this video, we're just going to use lower sample. Okay, and this is our AO. And then we're going to, okay, bake the diffuse, just the color. Okay, random vertex color. So just the, like that. No saturation, just gray values, zero point 0.7. Islands. Okay. And create a material for them. So if you have Cuber, you can just press new and F9 is going to use emission. Okay. And since this already has the a vertex color, we're going to vcol matte, and this attaches the vertex color to the principled and not the emission. So okay, just manually fix that. Use one. Okay, so that's the emission. That is what we're going to bake. So create a new image, diffuse. Okay, drag this and put it here. Make sure it's highlighted. And then instead of diffuse, if you bake diffuse, it's going to bake kind of like an AO image, but with color, and it's noisy. So we're just after the color. So we're going to use emission. Instead of plugging it to a diffuse shader, plugged it to animation shader, then we're going to bake that emission. Bake type emit, bake. Okay, so this is the result. So this is the, you can try it with color, just use the emission shader. I mean saturated color, not the grayscale values that I'm using. Okay, so we're going to use this, hide everything, and use this for the base color. We get the normal, and then color, mix, set it to multiply, and multiply the AO and the normal in the normal input, and go to vector, use the normal map node. Let's hope for the best. Okay, so uh, object space, since we baked it as object in object space, baked it in object space. Okay, so you can have you can bake more maps to use for your metallicity and roughness, and even bake the detail, the randomized detail, or using put procedural shaders on the randomized mesh, and then bake that. Slowly bake the maps from that. Instead of I mean, you have to diffuse the dirt and the grunge from your procedural shader. So if you want to bake the diffuse from that, use the method that I just used. Use emit instead of the diffuse shader, and bake as emit. Okay, and when you combine it, and also make sure that the one that you're using for metallicity, you also bake that as emit, and in the new object, use it and plug it to the metallicity or the roughness. Wait, is it this side? Let's flip it. Oops. This side looks more, but you get the idea. So this is how you bake it. Okay. And we can actually, so this is UV, UV, and UV, vector. Oh no, not vector mapping. So we can adjust the scale. This should be repeating. Okay. It's not going to repeat, and sorry for that. We need to have created a seamless map, which we're going to do in the next video. So this is not a seamless we need to have filled the entire UV for this to be seamless. So but we can probably, okay, um, we can duplicate this or use array and use it for um, parts, some parts of your scene. So instead of using geometry, you have the normal detail, which is going to be much lighter. Okay, so think of this kind of like a wall, and you have this all these pipe details, and the way you set it up on the viewer, they will never know that it's going to be, it's just a normal detail. Okay, so in order for this to be seamless, you have to really repeat, extend. I think if this doesn't work, then you have to, nope, you have to manually copy this part and paste it here and here in outside Blender. Otherwise, we should have gone with the first UV map, which is the stretch one.